They called it Force Z. Two mighty British warships sent to stop Japan, HMS Repulse and HMS Prince of Wales, battlecruiser and battleship, symbols of British naval power. On December 10, 1941, Japanese aircraft found them. No air cover, no escape. Repulse took 6 torpedo hits. She sank in minutes. HMS Repulse was a Renown-class battlecruiser. Launched in 1916. Built during World War I, she displaced 32,000 tons. Armed with 6 15-inch guns in 3 twin turrets, 12 4-inch secondary guns, multiple anti-aircraft weapons, her speed was her strength, 32 knots at full power, fast enough to outrun most battleships, but speed came at a cost. Her armor was thin, belt armor only 6 inches in critical areas, deck armor just 4 inches. She was designed for the Jutland era. When naval combat meant gun duels at long range, horizontal threats, not dive bombers, not torpedoes from aircraft, Repulse had served for 25 years. She fought in World War I, hunted German commerce raiders, escorted convoys. She was upgraded between the wars, new fire control, enhanced anti-aircraft armament, modernized engines, but fundamentally she remained a World War I design. By 1941, she was obsolete. Naval warfare had changed. Aircraft carriers dominated. Air power decided battles. Battleships and battlecruisers were vulnerable without air cover, but Britain was desperate. The Royal Navy was stretched thin. Ships were needed everywhere: Mediterranean, Atlantic, Indian Ocean. When Japan threatened Southeast Asia, Churchill made a decision: send a deterrent force, big ships. Powerful ships show the flag, make Japan think twice. It was political, strategic, psychological. It was also a gamble. The force was assembled quickly. HMS Prince of Wales, Britain's newest battleship, fresh from hunting Bismarck, armed with 10 14-inch guns, heavily armored, powerful, but still working out mechanical problems. Civilian workers were aboard finishing installations. HMS Repulse would accompany her. The battlecruiser was older, weaker, but fast and experienced. Together they would form Force Z, later joined by 4 destroyers as escorts. Admiral Sir Tom Phillips commanded. He was an experienced officer, but a gunnery expert, not a naval aviator. He did not fully understand air power, did not believe aircraft could sink capital ships. He believed in guns, armor. Traditional naval warfare. The force sailed from Singapore on December 8, 1941. Their mission was aggressive: intercept Japanese invasion convoys off Malaya, sink the transports, disrupt the landings, force Japan to withdraw. It was bold, audacious. Some called it reckless. They had no aircraft carrier. HMS Indomitable was supposed to join them, but she ran aground in the Caribbean. Under repair, Force Z would sail without air cover. Phillips believed they would be fine. They were fast. They could evade air attacks. They had anti-aircraft guns. He was wrong. Force Z steamed north along the Malayan coast, searching for Japanese convoys. The weather was poor, heavy clouds, rain squalls, visibility limited, good for avoiding detection, bad for finding targets. Japanese reconnaissance aircraft spotted them on December 9th. Reports went back to Japanese bases. Air commanders prepared strikes. Bomber squadrons armed torpedoes, loaded bombs, waited for weather to clear, waited for orders. Phillips knew he was detected. He considered turning back, but intelligence reported Japanese invasion convoys nearby, targets of opportunity. He continued north, maintained course, searching, hunting. By evening, no targets were found. Weather worsened. Phillips made his decision, turned back to Singapore. The mission was aborted, too risky to continue. They headed south, back towards safety. During the night, a false report came: Japanese forces landing at Kuantan. Phillips diverted to investigate. It was a mistake, a fatal mistake. The report was false. But the diversion took them close to Japanese air bases, within range, within striking distance. At dawn on December 10th, they were exposed, vulnerable, and the Japanese knew exactly where they were. At 11:00 a.m., lookouts spotted aircraft, high-level bombers, Mitsubishi G3M Nell bombers, 17 aircraft, flying at 10,000 feet, approaching from the west. Force Z went to action stations, every gun manned, crews ready. Phillips did not break radio silence, did not request air cover from Singapore. He believed they could handle this, evade the bombers, fight back with anti-aircraft fire, survive until they reached Singapore. The bombers attacked Prince of Wales first, the bigger threat, the newer ship. Bombs fell from high altitude, most missed, near misses, geysers of water. One bomb hit Prince of Wales amidships. Damage was moderate, not critical. The battleship continued, maintained speed, maintained formation. At 11:40 a.m. the second wave arrived, torpedo bombers, Mitsubishi G4M Betty bombers. Each carried one torpedo, Type 91 aerial torpedoes, the same type used at Pearl Harbor. Proven weapons, deadly weapons, 26 aircraft, split into two groups, one targeting Prince of Wales, one targeting Repulse. The battlecruiser turned hard. Captain William Tennant commanded Repulse. He was an experienced seaman. He understood his ship, knew her capabilities, her limitations. He would maneuver, use speed, dodge torpedoes, fight back. The battle for survival began. The torpedo bombers came in low, 50 feet above the water, speed 200 knots. They approached from multiple directions, port and starboard, forcing the ships to choose, turn toward one attack, expose yourself to another. Repulse's anti-aircraft guns opened fire. The 4-inch guns, the pom-poms, the machine guns, tracers filled the sky, shells burst around the bombers. One bomber fell, trailing smoke, crashing into the sea, then another, direct hits, good shooting, but there were too many. The bombers pressed in, released torpedoes at 1,000 yards. White wake streaked through the water, heading for Repulse, multiple torpedoes from multiple directions. Captain Tennant called for emergency turns, hard to port. The battlecruiser heeled over, turning tight. Her speed saved her, agility saved her. The torpedoes passed ahead, missed. The crew cheered. They had dodged death. But the attack was not over. More bombers circled, positioning, waiting for the next opportunity. The ships were maneuvering violently, turning, twisting, trying to evade. Anti-aircraft fire continuous. The noise deafening, smoke and spray obscuring vision. At 11:44 a.m. Prince of Wales was hit. One torpedo port side. Damage control teams rushed to respond. At 12:00 p.m. the third wave attacked. More torpedo bombers, fresh aircraft, full loads. They targeted Repulse specifically. The battlecruiser was the faster ship, more dangerous, harder to hit. They wanted her eliminated. 9 bombers attacked simultaneously, from port and starboard, coordinated, professional. Japanese naval aviators were the best in the world, trained for years, experienced from China. They knew exactly what to do. Tennant maneuvered desperately, hard to starboard, then hard to port. The ship responded beautifully, turning sharply, heeling over, wake churning white, guns firing continuously, men shouting, officers calling bearings, helmsmen straining at the wheel, but there were too many torpedoes, too many directions, no escape. At 12:01 p.m. the first torpedo struck, port side amidships, massive explosion, column of water shot upward. The ship shuddered, slowed slightly, but continued maneuvering. 20 seconds later the second hit, port side forward. Another explosion, more damage, flooding began. The bow started settling. The ship listed 5 degrees to port. The third hit followed immediately, port side aft, near the engine rooms. This was critical, machinery damaged, power fluctuating. Speed dropped from 30 knots to 25 knots. The battlecruiser was wounded, losing mobility, becoming a sitting target. At 12:03 p.m. the fourth torpedo struck, starboard side. The attackers had changed tactics, hitting the opposite side. The list reversed, starboard now. The ship was being torn apart from both sides, internal structure failing, bulkheads collapsing. Water flooded multiple compartments, engine rooms, boiler rooms, magazines, storage spaces. The pumps could not cope. The damage was too extensive, too many breaches. The list increased, 10 degrees, 15 degrees. At 12:05 p.m. the fifth torpedo hit, port side again, forward of the previous hits. The bow section was destroyed, flooding rapidly. The forward gun turrets were still firing, crews still fighting. Even as their ship died beneath them. The sixth and final torpedo struck at 12:08 p.m. port side near the bridge. The explosion was catastrophic. It destroyed the command center, killed officers, severed communications. The ship was finished, mortally wounded. Beyond saving, Tenant gave the order, abandon ship, every man for himself, get off now before she rolled, before she took them down with her. The crew responded, discipline held, no panic. British sailors doing their duty, following orders, even in death. Men poured onto the tilting deck. Life jackets were distributed. Carly floats thrown overboard. The destroyers moved in close, ready to pick up survivors, but they had to stay back, avoid being hit by the sinking ship, avoid the suction. The list increased rapidly, 20 degrees. 25-30, walking became climbing. Men slid down the deck, into the water. Some jumped, others climbed down ropes. The sea was warm, 85 degrees, but oil covered the surface. Thick black choking at 12:23 p.m. Repulse rolled completely over, 15 minutes after the order to abandon ship. The hull turned turtle, red bottom paint visible, propellers still turning slowly. The ship paused, upside down, floating. Then she began the final plunge. The stern rose. Lifting clear of the water, the bow was already submerged. The ship stood nearly vertical. Then she slid backward into the depths, creating a massive whirlpool, pulling debris, pulling men, pulling everything down. She was gone, vanished beneath the surface, into 200 feet of water. 25 years of service. 25 years of pride, ended in 23 minutes. From first torpedo hit to disappearing beneath the waves. Prince of Wales was dying too. She had been hit by 6 torpedoes, more than Repulse. The battleship was newer, better protected, but the damage was catastrophic. 1 torpedo struck the propeller shaft, damaged steering, flooded after compartments. She lost power, lost speed, dead in the water. More torpedoes followed, hitting the immobilized ship. Flooding increased. The list became critical. At 12:50 p.m., Admiral Phillips gave the order, abandon ship. He would go down with his ship. Captain John Leach stayed with him, both men refusing to leave. At 13:20 p.m., Prince of Wales rolled and sank, taking Phillips and Leach with her, taking hundreds of crew. The newest British battleship, 10 months in service. Gone, Force Z was destroyed, 2 capital ships sunk, in less than 3 hours, by aircraft alone, no surface ships involved, no submarines, just bombers and torpedoes. It was the first time capital ships maneuvering in open water were sunk by air attack alone. Repulse lost 513 men, out of 1,309 crew. Prince of Wales lost 327. Total casualties, 840 dead. The destroyers rescued 2,081 survivors, pulling men from all covered water. Many were injured, burned, in shock. Some died after rescue. Captain Tennant survived. He was among the last to leave Repulse. He jumped into the water as she rolled. A destroyer picked him up. He lived with guilt. His ship was gone. His men were dead. But he had done everything possible, maneuvered brilliantly. Fought hard, no one blamed him. Admiral Phillips died with his ship. His body was never recovered. His belief that aircraft could not sink battleships died with him. The lesson was learned, at terrible cost. Naval warfare had changed forever. Among the dead were young sailors, teenagers, veterans, officers, engine room crew who stayed at their posts, gunners who fired until the end. They did their duty. The sinking shocked the world. Britain's mighty ships, destroyed in hours by Japanese aircraft. It shattered the myth of British naval supremacy, proved that air power dominated naval warfare. Battleships without air cover were doomed. Singapore fell 2 months later. British forces withdrew from Malaya. Japan conquered Southeast Asia. Force Z's destruction eliminated the only naval threat. The road to conquest was open. Churchill was devastated. He wrote later, "In all the war I never received a more direct shock." He understood immediately. The balance of power had shifted. Britain was vulnerable. The Royal Navy was not invincible. Japan celebrated. The AMN had achieved the impossible, sunk 2 capital ships, proved their superiority, confirmed their tactical doctrine. Aircraft carriers were the future. Battleships were the past. The lesson was clear. But many would die before everyone learned it. Repulse rests upside down in the South China Sea. about 40 miles off Malaysia in 200 feet of water. The wreck is accessible to divers, a war grave protected by law but regularly visited, documented, photographed. The hull is largely intact, covered in coral, marine growth. The gun turrets hang downward. The propellers are visible. Debris surrounds the wreck. Personal effects, equipment, reminders of the men who died. Prince of Wales lies nearby, also upside down, also a grave. Together they mark the site of Britain's greatest naval defeat in the Pacific. Every year veterans and families remember. Ceremonies are held, wreaths laid on the water, names read aloud, the sacrifice honored, the lesson remembered. They were sent to stop Japan. They never had a chance. Force Z proved what Pearl Harbor had shown 3 days earlier. Battleships were vulnerable to air attack, obsolete without air cover. The carrier era had arrived. Gun duels between battleships were history. Britain learned. The Royal Navy reorganized. Carriers became primary. Battleships were relegated to support roles. Air defense became paramount. Task forces built around carriers, battleships as escorts. Japan should have learned too, but they did not. They built Yamato and Musashi, super battleships, obsolete before commissioning. They died without achieving anything, like Torpedo, like Repulse, victims of a changing world. Admiral Phillips paid for his ignorance with his life. His men paid for his mistakes with theirs. The price of lessons learned is always blood. Naval warfare had changed. Forever, they sent Repulse to stop Japan, to deter invasion, to show British power, to rule the waves. Instead, she became a tomb, a monument to obsolescence, a lesson in hubris. 6 torpedo hits, that was all it took. 6 torpedoes from aircraft. The battlecruiser that survived World War I, that hunted raiders, that served for 25 years, gone in 23 minutes. 513 men died with her. They served faithfully, fought bravely, maneuvered brilliantly. Captain Tennant did everything right. It was not enough. The ship was wrong. The doctrine was wrong. The era was wrong. Repulse rests where she fell, upside down, silent, a grave for hundreds. A reminder that warfare changes, that the past cannot fight the future. That traditions mean nothing when technology advances. They sent her to stop Japan. She sank trying. The sacrifice was real. The lesson learned. The price paid in full.